Do what you want. But welcome to our first business edition of All Things WordPress Meetup. This will be interesting as we go through, but I thought it'd be smart to start with a panel of smart people to make it easy. Coming up, let's see, here's today. Next month will be kind of weird. We have WordCamp on March 18 through 20, so the day before, the 17th, would be our normal third Thursday. I'm not going to do that to myself because I'm there all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with WordCamp stuff. So if you're into WordPress stuff and haven't signed up for WordCamp, there are still a few tickets available. Atlanta.wordcamp.org, but we won't meet the third Thursday next month. But the fourth Thursday, we'll do our next business one, and that'll be back at the Central Library because they have space. We'll bounce around as space is available and free. We're going to talk about scoping, estimating, and pricing projects, which should be kind of fun. Scoping in terms of figuring out, and someone says that'll be the fourth Thursday, March 24th.
Oh, okay.
So we'll talk about scoping, trying to figure out if someone says, hey, I want a website, that could be anywhere from $200 to $2 million, trying to figure out how to figure out what the scope is, figure out, is it a small site that, if we get approached, is it a small site we can hand off to someone, or is it a site we can handle, or is it a site we need to bring in Aaron and his team to help with, how to figure out scope, and then once you know the scope, how to figure out estimating the price for it, and pricing it, and then bringing scope back around at the end, like once it gets going, how to keep things in check, and that kind of stuff. So it should be kind of fun. So that's up on Meetup to sign up for. I'll push out the email announcement later. I don't know why the screen's flickering, but we'll live with it. Let's see. That's really about it. Not a whole lot. Diana, actually. Diana, what's your next one going to be? Oh, it's up there now. So let's see her. Diana just added hers. So her developer one next Thursday. Building your own starter theme phase 2, and that'll be back at the Central Library as well. So a week from today, at lunchtime, the Central Library will be her developer one. And then Kathy. Yours would be the following Thursday, right?
March 10th, and right now the topic is to be determined.
There you go. It's her favorite topic. She covers that one a lot. But that's quite well. Yes, she does. But that's March 10th, and hers is in the evening. Meetup.com/WP Atlanta, just up the road at the East Cobb Government Center across from Mount Bethel Church in the evening. A lot of you I know have been there before. So lots of good meetups coming up. One other housekeeping note, this library wants us to clean up after ourselves when we're done, so if you guys can stick around 5 minutes just to help stack tables and chairs, that would be much appreciated. And we'll kind of go into things a little bit. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Mickey Mellon. I co-own Green Mellon Media with Allie there. Susanna is with us for another week. For those who don't know, she's found a brilliant opportunity and is heading elsewhere in a week. We're very sad about that, so I have her periscoping one last time for us. Well, I guess she will next week too. That leads us to, we've got an opening on our team. If you go to our site, under who we are, join our team, looking for someone awesome like a Susanna that can handle WordPress updates and content and a little writing and that kind of stuff. So if you know of anyone looking for a job, please point them our way. We'd be happy to talk to them. That would be great. And let's get in and start talking to our awesome panel here. I'll get them to introduce themselves, I guess, individually, but let's start at the beginning with Aaron Reimann, who I met years ago when
Tried to get your job.
He tried to get my job. Yeah, I worked at a lot of I worked at Mount Bethel United Methodist Church up the road there. And when I left to start Green Mellon, we interviewed a bunch of folks that got down to the final 2, which were Aaron and Cliff Seal. So I mean, that was a tough call. And yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, so Aaron, tell us. Spend a few minutes talking about Sideways 8 and where you are and how you got here.
So we started Sideways 8 in 2010. We're a agency that tends to be dev heavy, but we do the whole branding thing. We kind of have brought in more developers than I thought we would because we picked up a lot of, like Mickey had mentioned, if the projects need some kind of hardcore dev stuff, we tend to help out a lot of agencies doing that stuff. And I guess we've been around 2010, so 6 years, and growing. We've hired a few more people in the past year, so it's good. Business is good. I don't know what else to say.
How many people are there on your team?
We are 6 full-time, and then we have, 5 contractors or so that are pretty consistent. So we're all remote. We don't have an official office. So.
And again, please do pop. I have a list of questions, some that you guys submitted online, but please pop up during the middle and ask questions as we go. You don't need to wait till the end or anything. If you have thoughts as they raise a point, feel free to jump in. Jenny. Somewhere in here. Yes. Tell us about yourself.
Oh yes, hi, I'm Jenny Munn. Happy to be here. I've worked with WordPress websites since 2009, my own business, and
your old
for
site.
client businesses. Oh, this was my very first website. I put it myself. I'm still so impressed with my DIY WordPress skills. So I started out in 2009 as a website copywriter, and I quickly found out that clients weren't going to just come to me because I was open for business. So I taught myself SEO, and that led me to becoming an SEO copywriter. And then people started asking me how I did so well with SEO, so I started SEO training, and today I do audits and training, mostly for in-house marketers and small businesses, and Mickey and I talk on SEO together a lot. And I use WordPress just every day for client websites and for building my own brands, and I bow down to the WordPress community because I certainly wouldn't be here without it. And I'm so passionate, I love what I do, and I just credit WordPress for that so much.
Cool. All right, and last we have Chris Shull.
So I usually tell people at things like this that I have one thing in common with Madonna, only one thing, hopefully, and that is that I continue to reinvent myself, and I'm far too old to be doing that. So I have a degree in finance, and I worked in finance for a while, and then medical sales for a long time in the operating room with neurosurgeons, which is bizarre. And then just through a series of clients and some things, I wound up building a website for a doctor. And he said that he wanted his site built in WordPress, and I said, what is that? I didn't know what it was. And this was probably about 4 years ago. And that little project was so much fun. And it was the perfect combination of my left brain's, you gotta have structure, you gotta have flow, linear thinking, all of this Excel spreadsheet background with this creative side that I actually didn't even know I had. And so I find that it is the perfect combination. My clients, particularly small to medium-sized businesses, it's just me. I love what I do. I love what I do. And I tell people, not my clients, that I might do it for free because I love it so much. So I'm learning more and more every day. I'm definitely a designer, not a developer. I do not write PHP or JavaScript. That stuff scares me. So HTML and CSS is about as far as I go with that. But that's what I do.
And as you probably understood, and I posted, I think, on the Meetup, I chose these three specifically because their businesses are so different. Hopefully they can give us a breadth of experience from there. We've got Erin with a bigger agency, Chris, the golden unicorn, doing both design and development herself, which is a rare breed, and a lot of us are jealous of that, they don't have both sides. And Jenny, that doesn't build WordPress sites, but uses WordPress for her own business to further other endeavors. So between the three of them, we should get some good insight. So let's dive in. And I'm going to start with a tough one right off the bat. I think it's actually from Allie, sort of. With all the companies out there that don't really know what they're doing, we all see clients that say, oh, this other company messed it all up, but they look good. And they have a shiny website and they look fine. How do you show your true value of what you do? And I know SEO is going to be a tough one too. There's so many shady SEO companies out there. What are some ways you can talk to clients and express, I really do know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. So whoever wants to jump in.
It's a big question.
It is a big question to start with, yeah. All right.
I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
Hopefully I'll do it right. I run into a lot of agencies that they don't have a dev team, and they outsource a lot of stuff. And what I've kind of realized is that you either know WordPress or you don't. And I don't run into too many companies that do WordPress and Drupal and Joomla. Not that I'm going to slam those with a camera running, but there's the right way to do things, and I feel like most places don't do it. And I can just look at the HTML pretty quickly. I would say 9 out of 10 times I find things that are just right off the bat done incorrectly. And I'm able to show it to them and say, hey, this works right now, but with an upgrade, a WordPress upgrade, or you enable another plugin, there's a chance it's going to break, and that's very, very common. So that's my take on it. That's one way I can show value is just knowing kind of the ins and outs of
Gotcha. And how can you show that if you can't look at code examples, you're up against an unknown entity, and you just assume there's a good chance they don't know what we're talking about? There are things you can say that.
I could do that on, I'm talking about the HTML. I'm
Right.
not looking at the PHP.
No. If you can't see the HTML, you're up for a job against a couple other companies, and you don't know who they are, so you can't look at any code. What things can you say to help prove your worth.
That's why I have a business partner. He does the sales.
Yeah, this is true. I'll look all that for you.
I can't answer that question.
All right.
I don't.
Well, Jenny, I think this one hits you the most though, because SEO is such a tainted word and so abused by a lot of folks that don't do it well.
It is, yeah. So SEO is a very shady industry, and so I have definitely relied on a lot of education. So I try to get my word out there and the expertise. I show up well in Google, and so I do think still there's trust associated when you do show up higher. And then I speak a lot also, but I still point to one example where, so a prospect told me he came to my website, then he read some of my content, and then he went to Twitter, and he came back and watched a video, and so just being on Google didn't sell me. He checked me out in multiple places, and then Googled my name to make sure I wasn't shady, so you still have to kind of be everywhere and have a presence. And another thing I started doing is doing like a free 30 to 60 minute with qualified prospects, Google Analytics, Google Search Console deep dive. So I pull up their analytics and accounts, and I walk them through, here's what I'm seeing, you told me your goal is going to be this, here's some low-hanging fruit to kind of show them, here's the power of SEO today, instead of just kind of spouting off stuff. So I kind of show my value by truly showing it. So as I've gotten more expensive and I'm going after bigger clients, I've kind of increased, the value of what I'm showing them by taking them more time and showing them their specifics. And then case studies and testimonials, I really am not shy. I'm showcasing them on my website and really asking clients now, do you have a testimonial, and following up several times in order to get that, so I can point to specific examples.
Cool. And that 30 to 60 minute piece you do, that's free for them?
It's free, yeah. I don't do it for everybody, so I really know who I'm trying to target and I qualify. But if they hit those qualifying metrics, then I'll do, it's like a join.me screen share, and I have them grant me access, and I walk them through their accounts, I give them ideas, and totally free, no expectations. I don't sell, but they usually do say, well, so tell me about what you do. And then that has a very high conversion rate.
Cool. Very good. Chris, any thoughts?
A few. My background may be a little bit, and I'm very comfortable with sales because that's how I earned my living for a long, long time. So I'm very comfortable sitting in front of a potential client and selling myself. But I would say that there's two things that in my experience, if you can show to a potential client, they more than likely will choose you. And the first is integrity, and then the second is obviously the quality of your product. And I think that in our world, or in my world, which is focused on small and medium-sized businesses, I cannot tell you, you all have experienced it too probably, when people come to you and say, yeah, I worked with a web guy, and he took all my money, and he did this, he made promises, and then, so the integrity and the trust thing is huge. And then there's a lot of folks, maybe here, or maybe not, who do templated sites, and they're, kind of plugging in, and I'll do it for $500, and this is what it is, here you go. And that's, the client who wants that is not my client. There is definitely a place for that, but those aren't my people. So, what I do is I meet with all my clients face to face. I do not do a web form on my site where clients have to fill in all the stuff that they want, because there is no way for me to share my integrity, and there's no way for me to communicate the quality that I'm going to bring to my work if I'm doing it all online on the phone or through a form. So every single potential client, no matter how small or how big, I sit down at Starbucks or whatever, and we have a conversation. And the vast majority of the conversation is me listening to them talk about their business. I don't talk about me. I don't talk about what I do. It's all about, and it's sincere. I'm a person with integrity. I'm honest. I do good work. I'm not going to sell you something you don't need. I'm not going to overcharge you. And they get that, right? And that's who you guys are. That's going to come through. So I think that once you establish that with your clients, it's going to alleviate pricing issues and some other stuff that I'm sure we'll talk about as well.
Cool. Well, the next thing, I did want to jump into pricing a little bit. We'll get into it more, I'm sure. But when you talk about your free discovery session, Aaron, how do you guys handle discovery, free versus paid versus that stuff?
I don't think we do much paid discovery, but we've gotten really picky on our clients now, because time is money, but we we go through a whole process. I mean, I used to be afraid of, so what's your budget? You know, that was kind of like a question that I never wanted to ask people, and now that's kind of, I don't see that as a bad thing anymore. You know, it's they either have the budget or they don't, and I can recommend something if it's, you know, lower amount. I can find somebody to, you know, send it to. But qualifying is just trying to, like, I totally forget which one you were talking. Talking about you know, what your niche, not necessarily your niche, but what your target is, and knowing that is important. And I can look and say, yeah, this client, we're not going to work well together, and being able to not that we're bad people or they're bad people. It's just, you know, their expectations might not be set well, and that's one of the key things is just letting them know what they're gonna get and how we work, and just try to figure out the mesh well. So.
And I know you want to answer this next question that Jim sent in. You remember what you put on the form?
No.
How much is a website?
Oh.
I immediately, when I saw that, I thought $8, because I think Wix is $8. Mickey told me that GoDaddy has $1 a month for a website. So,
but all of us get asked that everywhere we go, by every single person. As soon as you tell them you work on websites, that's the first thing they say is,
yep.
"Oh, I need some. How much is a website?" And then you try to get out of answering that, they won't let you.
No, I'm all about being very upfront about that, because a client who wants a $500 website is not my client. So I'd rather just end that conversation right then and there.
What about 2,000?
That's not my client.
5,000.
I'll tell them. They say, what's your pricing? I got this request from a friend recently, and I said, my site started at $4,000, and they go up from there, depending on a variety of factors that is too detailed to talk about in a text. You know, if you want to have coffee, I'll learn more about your business, and I can start to ballpark you. My process with clients on pricing is, after an initial meeting, I do a preliminary proposal. It is not firm, and there are disclaimers in there. If the preliminary proposal and their interactions with me to date are something they want to move forward with, then they feel like that I give them a range. It's usually about a $5,000 range on the price. And if that range is agreeable to them, we sit down and we do a strategy session. I have these 5 S's that I run through with them. And I tell them at the beginning, it's all written. At the end of that strategy session, I'll give you a firm price. And it will be within that range that I started out with. But it's only when I sit with them and go through those details in that strategy session that I actually know what the price is going to be.
But you do say 5 at a party to get to just figure out if you're going to have a meeting or not. Okay.
Because there's no point going forward with somebody whose budget is $500.
But you are willing to say a number.
Yes.
You have one thought there?
I was just gonna say that's how I scare a lot of people off. You know, is throw the dollar amount. We're $3,500 for a template and $15 for a custom, and it scares people away. But we realize that as we grow, the bigger the organization, the more they don't freak out about that, and it really is. You know, there's that high because it really does take a lot of man hours. You know, because you know, a bigger organization, they're going to need some kind of API integration. They might see it as something real, you know, oh, well, we just need to pull this information and show it on the website, you know, and if we don't dive in and figure that out, you know, and, you know, understand what those steps are, you know, that's, you know, we probably have to write a plugin because that, I mean, the API exists, but there's no plugin for it. So, you know, we have to know, you know, what they're expecting, you know, and the prices are just high, so.
I was just going to say, maybe it's the small businesses that ask that question, like the more the entrepreneur or somebody that's thinking of starting up something, they ask that question very directly. You know, maybe it's not a bigger organization that asks how much is a website.
Yeah, well, we moved ourselves out of the startup price range because we get a lot of startup people just filling out our contact form, and that's a lot of it is just how much is a website, and we can figure out pretty quickly if they just need to go. I mean, go with Squarespace. Like if your budget is $100, go that route, get started, somewhere, figure out what you're working on is actually a viable product. Try to sell a product before, you got to realize that you're going to be able to make money doing this as opposed to dropping, 15,000 on a site.
I talked to, we were sitting actually in a client meeting once, and our client is trying to target homeowners who their home values are at least $500,000. And so they're a very middle of the road service provider. But what she was saying, even the wealthier people who have like $1 million homes are sometimes the cheapest people. And so it's really interesting, I think, too, about that, but definitely giving a range. Well, one of my last client websites was an SEO. Nobody ever knows what SEO costs because I have no idea what to even charge for this. But I usually do try to give people like an estimate or tell them, here's what my last client was, but I have very fixed deliverables in what I offer, and I charge like a monthly fixed fee for things. And so I used to be so deathly afraid of someone saying to me, well, you're way too expensive. I never wanted anyone to tell me that I was too expensive, and I just really had to work to overcome that. But definitely knowing who you want to target and people in the same, and and nobody ever, that's why I tell people, nobody has cash aside for SEO. It's not like people saved money for a rainy day when they were going to invest in SEO, so nobody ever has the money. But I really tried to justify the ROI and saying, well, this is intended to get you more clients, so I want this money to make up for itself in a couple months, and that's what the goal is here. So that's what I always try to help people with, and then offer to have really good people who can help them maybe for a lower budget, or free resources. I'm always pointing people who can't afford me to Laws has a free great starter guide. So I think as long as you can be confident and know, what to spend time on and what not. And the range is good. I mean, people do want to know. I definitely understand that.
And I would just encourage everybody just to be confident in who you are and what you do, and that your price is worth it. The value of what you do is worth the price you charge. It is. And if you sit down in front of a potential client and you say, my website started whatever your price is, you say it with confidence. And if somebody questions you on that, oh, I can't afford that, you offer, like Jenny said, to send them somewhere else. You give them a proposal, they say it's too much, do you just go lower your price? No, you don't lower your price. You offer to adjust the deliverables to get the end product within the price that they want. I've had 3 or 4 startups. I mean, these are sole proprietor startup, brand new businesses that are happy to pay me $5,000 to do their first website for them. They don't expect to pay $500 or $1,000 because I think they recognize the value that I bring to the table versus what they would get on a Squarespace or a Wix or with a $500 monthly.
I'm not going to do what I did last.
You're fine. Go ahead.
You'll be thankful for that. I just asked 20,000 questions. What do you think made you successful in the transition? Maybe you didn't have the transition, but what if you did? What do you think made you successful in getting out of the lower tier into the mid or higher tier costs? Does that make sense? Like, in other words, so if you have let's say professionals and they want like brochure sites, so you turn that, but you want to get out of that space and move into small businesses that can afford $5,000, $10,000 for a site. Like, what do you attribute that transition to?
I think what pushed us to that, to get the dollar amount up, was the fact that if you're selling your websites and you can't get them all done because you have so much to do.
Demand.
And we had Gene Hammett, Google him. I forget what his website is, but he's a coach, business coach, and he said, you guys aren't charging enough. And, you know, I'm like, okay, he said, you need to triple the price. Like, you know, like, what? You know, that's really hard to comprehend, but we did it, and we were able to.
So you just answered, it does interrupt, but a business coach, it sounds to me, would be a good, thing to maybe have somebody else come in and take a look at, you know, what you're doing and sort of help you through it.
Yeah, Jean really helped our business, because we weren't gutsy enough to charge, you know, what we needed
That takes a lot to get, I mean, it does take a lot, and all three of you have said that, you know, and I've done that with some people who've called in, and happily, you know, it's like, you know, come on, I'm already doing this, you know, inexpensively, and that's my choice to do it that way, to support this one group of professionals. And I was like, you know, sorry about that, but I wouldn't come off of that price, so I'm okay with that. But I want to like take my professional, I want to take my business to sort of that next level. And
one of the things that I met with my rabbi because he's black.
it's always good to do.
And there was a project, and the website that we were going to do was about a $3,500 site. And he said, why are you charging so little? And I said, that's what I charge. He said, this company is $1 billion company. You know, it's a value-based proposition at that point. You know, to them, a website's worth a ton more than a church that has 300 members. You know, they're going to have a budget for $1,000. This company, you know, charge them what it's worth versus, you know, not necessarily what you normally would
Right.
charge. So that was one thing that really kind of made me think.
So you guys do this through referral, or, I mean, are you pounding the pavement, or how do you, I mean, a lot of my stuff comes through referral, which is, I think, part of my problem.
Maybe because their referral told them that what they pay.
Right, so that's a whole section we get to, well, yeah, we can go ahead and jump that way. So,
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay, no, we got.
I was just gonna say, that's what I did when I needed to kind of go to that next level. Absolutely with a business coach. I had to
Oh, you
get
did too?
very clear, I definitely hired a business coach, and everybody always says, I wish I would have hired one earlier. I
Yeah.
would have made the investment. I
It's
balked
expensive
at the
sometimes.
cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so expensive, but it's so
But it's the
worth
same
it.
with
You just have to be
SEO.
ready to invest.
And do the work.
And do the work, and I very consciously had to change the way I was marketing. So I stopped going to certain events. I tried to get myself in front of a bigger audience. I joined the board of Business Marketing Association. I tried to proactively reach out to referral partners at that next level and get in front of them. So I just had to really consciously change the marketing I was doing.
Right, that makes so much sense.
And I did not hire a business coach, because I can't afford one. And
That's what everybody says.
I know,
That's
but
what everybody
maybe it's my business background too. I don't know, maybe that impacts it, but honestly, I just literally changed the way I talk to people. You know, last month it was $2,000 for a website. I decided I'm not working for that anymore. I'm not gonna work for whatever that hourly rate equates to. My skills have gotten better, my end product is better, I can do it faster, there's great value in what I do. I just literally overnight decided, no, my minimum is now X, and that's just what
And
I
I've done that too, to get to the look that I charge, but, I just think, and for me, I think, because I do work alone, that, and these are so great, thank you, Mickey, for doing these, that a business coach would be able to sort of help you focus and narrow down what your business is all about. Because my business may be similar to yours or may not, you know, I may offer things that you don't, you know what I'm saying? And then and then focusing, finding those places to go to get that next level
Get that
referral
next
partner.
level. You gotta be really clear on that. And Sue, I was gonna say, who is the business coach that comes to talk to the freelance forum? She's really good, isn't she? There was a business coach, I just remember, so ask around, because there's tons of
There's a
great.
few, yeah, there's a
There's a few good
freelance
ones.
forum, it might be on the website.
Probably,
There's
she's
been a
spoken at
few,
events a couple
there's been a
years
few
ago.
coaches, and they're really good. The freelance forum has a lot of independent creative people, so these are also solopreneurs like you and me.
Right.
So there are people in town. I was working recently with a business coach because I needed to change a little bit of my messaging and website, and I was working with her remotely. She's not in town, but if you ask around people, and she was recommended to me, but the problem with that is you have to focus on that, and believe me, once you pay that money, you will want to focus. You have to be ready for that. It's sort of like committing, to like stop smoking or,
Oh, yeah, you have to.
weight loss. It's like hardcore, and that's tough to do when you're in deadlines. And I have a quick question that kind of segues on that, and that is, how do you determine, or how do you figure out which? Well, let me see how I can put this. There are certain clients that you get very excited. You're starting their project, that the money's going to be fine, whatever. But then you find out that you are just wasting so much time. And how do you keep track of your hours? How do you figure out, what not to do next time? Because there's scope creep, or there's a million phone calls, or there's something you have to figure out. So how do you cut through that and get rid of the time waster aspect, or the clients who are the time wasters?
We'll hit some of that next month too, but yeah, it's still be
Okay.
curious to let these guys take a stab.
Figure that out quickly. You figure out who the decision maker is. Are we talking about a decision? Are you talking to this decision maker? Is it going to a board? Because we've gone through. We're almost done with the project. Okay, I'm going to show it to my boss now. We're like,
right.
we're like, what?
Or the committee.
Like you were the, and we didn't do research on that. We didn't realize that that's how it was gonna work. And you've got to figure out who's, okay, you hit like 8 questions here. Tracking your time. Track your time. Always track your time. What I've realized is I use Harvest, and my whole team uses it, and we're able to figure out, it allows us to look back and say, you know what, this project's very similar to the project we did last year. And that took us, oh wow, I thought it was going to be 80 hours. We spent 120 hours.
That's a little.
So we've got to figure, we have 3 or 4 years of tracking time, project management time, dev time, design time, scope creep is a drop down that you get, but tracking that scope creep is important. So you can come back, like, I don't mind doing a little bit for the client, but then we can come back and say, hey, listen, instead of saying, we've done this and it's beyond what we, said we would do, we could say, we spent 5.5 hours on this, versus, some generic, number, like we're spending too much time on this. We can be more specific on it and say, we've got to bill you for that. What were the other questions? I don't know. I'll let you guys talk. I'm passionate about that. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of passionate about the whole pricing thing too.
The pricing in your time is just,
It's
is
valuable.
the only thing you can't get more of, so.
I wrote down 3 quick things in answer to your question and some of the others too. The first thing is this, and I think this is probably a common refrain for me. Confidence in who you are. What you do, your skill set, and the value that you bring to your clients is not a commodity. It is not. You have something of value to offer your clients. Do not treat yourself like a commodity or what you do like a commodity. Everybody in here has something unique and valuable to bring. And that needs to be communicated in every conversation, every encounter with your client. This is not, it's just not a commodity, okay? It's a specialty. You're a specialist. Treat yourself like that. Present yourself that way. And following on that, I would say pricing reflects value, right? Somebody's skill sets could be the exact same. One person says my website started at $10,000. The other person with the same skill set says that my website started at $2,000. Which person has a greater perceived value in the eyes of the client? The one who said my price is $10,000 for the same thing. Reminds me of a marketing class I had in college. They were talking about pricing and how pricing does this. And I'll never forget this example. He was talking about vodka. So regular person who doesn't know anything about vodka wants to make a vodka drink, they go to the liquor store, right? So you look at all the vodkas on the shelf. And there's some that are super, super expensive and they're kind of up here, and there's some that are really cheap and they're on the bottom. And in the middle shelf is Smirnoff. I don't know anything about vodka, but this is from college. So Smirnoff vodka is priced sort of middle, the upper middle. In fact, Smirnoff vodka, the product, is the cheapest, apparently, worst vodka you can buy. But they price it so that you perceive that it's good, right? So I would say that that same principle applies to what we do. Price yourself at your value and don't be shy about it. And in terms of scope creep, I don't know what you guys do with your contracts, but man, the more specific you can be about what you are doing and what the price is in your contract. I mean, my contracts have a signature on the bottom, but they also have spots all over the place where they have to initial. And one of those is anything beyond this is billed at X number of dollars per hour. You know, I tell them flat out, this is what it is. And if it starts to creep, we have that conversation. I guess it all comes down to just know who you are and the value you provide. It is. Just be.
But you have to be committed to that.
Yeah.
We also, we don't, sorry.
Yeah.
We put in our contract that it's, 8 pages and all this stuff, but we also have, you know, we think it's gonna be 80 hours, you know, and we hold ourselves to that, and we look, and we get, warnings, you know, hey, you're at, you know, 90%, you know, then we have to go back and say, we expect a certain, amount of hours. If it goes over it, it starts a conversation. We gotta start the conversation early. You know, don't be like, hey, we're at 81 hours, you know, pop up, you know, more, you know, but if it does go over, we didn't scope it well. We didn't understand what they really needed.
The hours, you put that in the contract?
Yeah.
Is it what you think the scope is?
So something that I did, when I kind of realized I was all over the place and I needed to tighten up and get more proactive, I hired an online business manager to help me. Like, I was talking and she helped me write out all of my processes. So when a new client comes on, what do I need to do? What information do I need to get from them? What's the first step? What do I need to do? What do I expect from them? When does that happen? And I kind of wrote out all these timelines. And so me being very clear helped me put that in my contract. I hired a lawyer, and you know, just the more boundaries you can establish up front, the more clients will uphold. And another thing I do is I send a welcome packet, and it outlines a lot. You know, if you go on vacation, I need to know if you're gone. That's really important to both of us. Here is my calendar if you want to make an appointment. So I try to be really clear about certain things that I identified by talking that out, and it kind of just slowly comes together. So welcome packet, processes, really clearly outlined, those deliverables, proactive emails. That's kind of how I started addressing that issue.
Chris, did you still have a question? Sorry.
Yeah, just I'll request a little bit more insight. You guys all spoke about how, you know, you were at a certain level with your business with the starter clients, and then you eventually went ahead and grew your business model to essentially trade up your clients to better paying customers. So not to split hairs between tactics and strategy, but you know, we can, you know, change our pricing. They're at home behind the computer and just, you know, up our prices and get our mind right. But and Jenny touched on a little bit, but Andy, another young lady, if you wouldn't mind, what was the strategy, the actionable steps that you took to put yourselves in front of those higher paying clients, so that, you know, so that you could onboard them? You know, because she mentioned that she went, you know, you joined a couple boards and you went a couple places. So what was the strategy, if it's not proprietary, if you wouldn't mind sharing, that you guys did to put yourself in front of those higher paying clients?
Who's that directed to?
Yeah. Well, all three, anybody.
Oh.
Well, the first thing I did when right after I hired a business coach to help me come up with that, because I finally just realized that I didn't want more of the same, but I didn't know what needed to change. I just had to get very clear on, okay, well, who did I want to reach? Was I going after a vertical? Or what I was trying to establish, like, are they in an office park? You know, Vicki and I, we've had so many conversations, like my ideal client is in an office park in Norcross, and where they get getting in front of and who else is serving them. So I just had to get really kind of clear and start brainstorming. But definitely referral partners and LinkedIn. Once I kind of started knowing what I needed to say at that next level and who I was targeting, trying to have as many proactive conversations with people who I thought might be on that next level, saying, this is what I'm doing, what are you up to? So I had a lot of calls, like check-in calls with people or trying to introduce myself. With referral partners is where it started, and then learning about events after that. And then adjusting my website marketing strategy. But it first started like hitting the pavement, talking to people at my new level. Here's what I'm up to now, and here's what I'm looking for, and here's, you know, they have a certain following. Some people do, they have a marketing budget of, you know, $50,000 because they know 5 to 10% will go towards websites maybe. So some people start with that. So you just have to be clear about, is it employee size? For me, I need one person at least in the marketing department in-house. So kind of the more specific you can be, you know, if it's a vertical, it's so much easier. I know Jean is really big into that and helping you. If you have a niche, it's just really clear. So I think then talk to anybody you can, start talking about it. That's what I did. Hit the pavement.
One of the things my business partner did in June or July or so, and we've reaped the benefits of it, is his goal is to do 20 meetings a week. And so now it's easier when you're a team. If you were doing 20 meetings a week, you probably would be getting anything done, but you get a lot of business. You know, it's getting in front of the right people, and just, I'm not trying to, we've never really done cold calling, but it's more of, we've targeted agencies like Green Melon, you know, because we hit New York City, now we have partners in New York City, you know, and they don't have dev or they don't do WordPress, and so we give referrals, you know, and so that's probably slightly different than, you know, that might not apply to every industry, but I mean, it's more just reaching out to other people that do the same thing that you do, you know, because someone has too much work, you know, and doesn't mind handing it over, so.
And then one other piece I think I was thinking when Chris was talking about, you know how awesome you are, is to be proactive about becoming more awesome. You know, we've talked about Feedly before. I followed like 500 blogs. I want to be more awesome today than I was yesterday. I mean, all of you that are here, you're trying to better yourselves. You know, there's so many companies out there that don't. They just are what they are. Maybe they say, yeah, I'll double my price because I want to. Whereas, you know, Chris, you've been coming to the Meetup on and off for a couple of years now. I'm sure you do lots of other stuff. You know, it's not just raising your prices, but actually raising your value to
Well,
match
yeah, I
that.
was going to say,
better, having more.
Right. Actually, that way you know you are that much awesomer. You know?
yeah, I mean, I look at stuff we do now versus 3 years ago. I can't just charge more necessarily, you know, and have not have a better product. You have to have a better product, you know. And I looked 3 years ago. I'm like, it's an okay website, you know, but it's gone up because we do more and we do better sites basically. So.
Very cool. Let's see. Oh, yeah.
How do you guys manage expectations when it comes to project completion, especially with scope? You guys give yourself a buffer, or are you very tight? This is what it is in your initial estimate. I've got a problem client right now who is basically a blank slate. He absolutely has no idea what he wants, and when you ask him, he's like, "You take care of it," kind of thing, like attitude, where the information is all on you. So it's this, yeah. It's confusing. You're just like, what do I do with you?
Do you do strategy sessions with your client and scoping sessions with your client?
No, I'm very early in the process. I work for Carl. I work for ClickHost. So my end is mostly sales. So
Okay.
I'm the guy you see first.
Okay.
So I'm the one who's responsible for setting the scope
Got it.
with our project manager. So
Do you meet with the team when you go ahead, Reed.
this has been a brain teaser. So it's like my background's in sales. So I'm familiar with managing expectations, but when it comes to it's the process is new. So I'm just trying to pick your brains.
I'm looking for a document. Okay, so I send to all my clients at the very beginning this little, I can't send you guys later, but basically it's a document and it tells them, this is a conversation I have with them verbally and also send this document that says, okay, this is how I work. And it outlines what I mentioned earlier, that my pricing and my scoping of the project is in 2 phases. The first is based on an initial conversation, I'll give you a ballpark range. But I can't give you a firm price, and we can't do a contract, and we can't do a project together until we have done discovery and strategy together.
Okay.
Right? And so we get a room at Rome where I used to work, and we sit there on a whiteboard and we scope out the project together. And the beauty of doing that, scoping a project with your client face to face, is that they buy in to whatever you agree to. Right? Granted, things do come up later during the project, things pop up, but they know that this is what I agreed to when we did our strategy, so that's going to cost more if I add that on. And then after that strategy session, we're in agreement. We're writing stuff down together. This is what we're going to do. And as we're talking through that, I'm saying, okay, if you want to add that, that's going to be outside that ballpark that I gave you. And then they have to decide, yes, I really want it, or no, I don't. So we're doing the scope together. And then at the end, we've got a list, a punch list, this is everything that's going to be included. And I kind of leave saying, all right, this is going to be at the higher end of that range, right? And they say, yeah, but that's what I want.
Okay.
Great. Then I come back to them with a very specific list of deliverables, time frame, and price that they've already basically agreed to because we did it together. And so I think that helps with the scope creep issues, and it helps with making the whole thing fully formed before you start, so that it's not kind of evolving.
But you're doing that strategy session before they're paying you something? Isn't that a lot of time?
No, I don't. What I do is I left this part out. So we have the initial meeting, I give them a ballpark, and if they like where they are with me so far, they actually go ahead and pay me. And they engage with me 50%
Yes.
upfront.
Yeah.
And from that point on,
right.
then we do.
You don't want to be giving away that
I'm not
strategy
giving away
stuff.
that time. No, they pay me before we have that strategy session, but there's been enough conversation that we both know that we're on the same page, we're headed in the right direction, they know that range of price is okay with them, and then we firm it up.
Do you do the strategy session with every single client, or do you just not accept clients like he has that are, they want to turn everything over to you, and so you do it, and then you send them a email now and again and ask more questions, and then hopefully they'll answer you within 3 or 4 days, and that's the thing. You have to decide who you want to work with, and that's where I'm getting at too. It's like if the client wants to be responsive, if the client wants to sit down and have a strategy session, if the client wants to buy into what you're doing for them, if they want to be a partner, that's great. But there's those clients who they just want to turn everything over to you and expect you to read their mind. And then those are the clients that I think at this point it's like, unless it's a great deal. I mean, unless you feel good about it. You know what I'm saying?
One thing I started doing was telling clients my expectations for them and saying, okay, in this first phase, these are your tasks. I anticipate this keyword research that I need your feedback on is going to take 45 to 60 minutes. I'm turning it over to you next week. And so really telling them in advance, like what your expectation, your part is going to be 4 to 6 hours. I need you to allocate that in next month. So to be very clear on those in advance kind of helps. And then again, I've got a questionnaire. So and in the contract, I say, I'm going to need you to turn information around in a very timely manner. Sometimes I ask what that means, but I kind of put stuff out there. And then I have phase 1 is 4 to 6 weeks. And I do charge in advance of the work. And in my contract, I say this engagement will not last longer than 6 months. If it's a one-time consultation, I say, okay, we'll have our follow-up call within 60 days. So I just try to be as clear. I just want to do trial and error, and I try to put those in as many places as possible and reinforce those.
Yeah, I think my hang-up is coming to the fact that I was working with products before, like selling
right. So
beans.
You'll just figure it out
Yeah.
what they start doing. But tell them your part. I need you to budget 2 hours in for my feedback, and I need this. And if you don't, it'll push it back.
Yeah.
So,
hang on. Let's go in the back.
So what I do when I have clients that don't seem to know is you kind of put a stake in the ground. You give them one or two choices and just say, so which one of these? It's like you do with a kid who doesn't know what flavor. You get chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah.
So, most of my clients are very busy, arrogant lawyers who don't spend any time on the website. I'm lucky if they look at them. And so they don't have any time for input, unless something's wrong for some reason, unless they see something somehow that they didn't want on there. But otherwise, they never look at it. They might look at it if I'm on a phone call with them. But the important thing is I know that they have the money and they're going to pay. And so I don't care if they never look at it. Actually, it takes some of the pressure off.
Yeah.
But if you're dealing with somebody that you're not sure if they haven't paid or you're not sure if that's part of the sale, that's a big red flag if they're not even interested in giving you any information about their business. But for me, with the money, because I know the money's going to be there, I have to answer those questions without them. I have to go on and learn whatever it is that they're doing as if I'm them. But only if you know you're going to be paid. I wouldn't waste that time for somebody that doesn't have time to talk to you.
Yeah.
Do y'all start work before you get your content from your client? I don't start work.
I do.
They pay me 50% upfront. I send them a checklist that I just sent Nikki right there, and it tells them I need these things from you before I will start at all. Period. I've got clients who paid me in December, they're 50%, and I have yet to receive anything. And it's just because they're busy and they're, whatever. And I remind them and I'm on them. They'll give it to me.
Would they be fine if you did it?
Sit there and spin my wheels, because you can't build a website unless you have all the content, right? Because the content drives the layout. So I can't do it in business.
Is that time sensitive? Their time to deliver that content to you? Is there a certain point to where, hey, it's over, it's done?
In our contract, we have a projected launch date, and I'm very big about telling them what I'm going to do and sticking to what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, which is part of the integrity thing. But I can't control them. So I log in an email once a week. So what's the status on the content? Are you going to get me now? And if they don't send it to me, then the date just keeps getting extended.
Yeah, we do I forget what the verbiage is, but basically we expect a response every question within 24 hours or 48 hours, something like that. And if we don't get a response, that could throw off all timelines. And that really helps you because, if we're waiting on, we have dev time or design time, allocated, for that week, and we don't get information until Thursday, we've got to keep our guys doing stuff, and so they get bumped back.
I think that hits the nail on the head with my issue of the non-responsive stuff, because in my mind, this is what I plan to do, and you just hit it. This is what you plan to do that week, get the job done. If the client's not responding to a question that you had for that reason, then it throws your whole schedule off. And that's,
So I used to, as a solopreneur, I would go head down and work, and then I'd be like, oh crap, it's been 3 weeks and I haven't heard from my client, and they haven't heard from me. And you have multiple clients, and you're head down working. So when I invested in a virtual assistant, and I started making them client interfacing, so it wasn't only up to me to be the only point of contact, and then writing out my processes, knowing, okay, well, week 4, phase 1 is supposed to end next week, and we haven't even done this. So again, being clear about those timelines, and this should last here, and now I have someone else kind of helping stay in touch with clients, be very communicative, and that's really taken my business to the next level when I can be head down and knowing my client manager, VA, is on them getting their stuff. So,
I've got verbiage, remember how I mentioned in my contracts, there's lots of little spots for them to initial. So I have a little, I'm thinking, as I'm talking, I sound like I'm like a person on my client's
Yeah,
We have a lot of
when you start
fun.
talking about it, you're like, man, I'm harsh. But,
I know, I'm not.
But it's
It's
nice for
great
them
fun.
because if we stick with these things, the project gets done. If we don't, it just drags on forever.
Boundaries, they'll uphold them.
Yeah, so I have this little paragraph that they have to initial, it's underneath the scope of the project, it says launch date. The site will launch, in this case, on or before March 15, 2016, in all caps, bold. Work will begin on the site when I have received all images and copy. I am not responsible for missed deadlines that result from delays in receiving prerequisite items or information from the client. The client is targeted to provide prerequisite items or information. P&G will notify the client of related subsequent delays in delivered services. Here's the kicker, I added this. I don't really stick to it, but it's in there, so it makes it point. Final payment is due by March 15, 2016, whether or not the site is launched, if delays are caused by the client failure to provide copy images, edit feedback, or other requested resources or information.
We have the same.
Yeah, so I don't really.
No, we have the same verbiage in there,
Same
you know,
verbiage.
saying after 90 days, even if it's not done.
Which is your question, Chris?
Which,
about
which,
letting it drag.
yeah, which I apologize brings up another question. So, like, what percent now that you traded up to better quality clients, how often do you see that? Do you see clients dropping the ball and not being in compliance versus when you first started with the when you first started your agency? Still.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Clients still get so busy and they still go a little bit MIA, but it's better. You know, you trust them more. I think there's a level of trust.
Okay.
And the person you interact with usually has someone breathing down their neck a little bit from above too. If you have a marketing person you work with, they have their boss saying, hey, how's that going, to that person that then affects you. Allie?
Yeah, we've recently added something to our contracts that's helped. I see it helping tremendously, and it's very similar to that clause you have in your contract. Ours is called the pause clause.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea being, one, setting expectations before you begin a project, telling the client, we're going to need 2 to 3 hours of your time each week to provide feedback on, you know, in a timely manner. If, and I forget what I could pull it up here, we are dependent on you for certain deliverables. You know, typically we're providing copy now, but there's still discovery elements and assets that we are depending on them to provide feedback. And I think we say if any feedback is delayed, 8 to 10 days from the day we've requested, we have the ability to put the project on pause. And people have spun this in different ways. One, the pause clause says when you are ready to reinstate the project by sending the deliverables, it could take up to 3 weeks for us to get back on track, to get you back active in our internal processes. So 3 weeks could be extreme, but it could take up to a week for us to get back on track because of the pause. Some people also charge a fee. You know, if you've paused this project, to reinstate it, there's going to be a 2% fee, what have you, in order to get things back up and running, because it takes more admin time for all my staff to get back into the swing of things and back onto your project. So
we've done the pause of, you know, like 3 months later, they finally, hey, we're ready.
Right.
We've already written code or whatever. I've forgotten everything about the project.
Revisit.
So, you know, we're gonna burn a couple hours at least, and so we have a, hey, if you pause for, I think we have something like 30 days, we probably need to change it, you know, but it's more of a, hey, you know, we can't just jump in and start, you know, where we were, you know, a month ago, and we can charge it. We don't do that often, but I mean, it's nice to have that in there because time is money. So.
Yeah, pause clause was a nice addition.
Yeah.
I'll pull that out now pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, we're waiting on you. Pause.
Can I get that verbiage? I might add that to it already.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. We've got our
we'll
contract.
post some of that in the
I have
roundup
a question.
of
Who do you go to help write contracts?
Our lawyer.
Yeah, we kind of cobbled ours together from online Google searches over the years, and everyone we thought was pretty good, and we showed it to our lawyer. He's like, that's not legal at all. So, we got some help getting it cleaned up.
There's something in our contract that said you cannot sue us. And he said, you can't. Okay.
But they also help, you know, you pay a lawyer a couple $100 for a few hours, you know, or a few $100 more, but whatever it is, it's worth just because he puts some things in it that help us too. Like if you do want to sue us, it has to be in Cobb County, so That way, in theory, we don't have a client in New York. That's great. We want to see you have to come to New York now.
But are there lawyers who understand our business?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there are, and actually, if you go to any of these business meetup, or what did we just go to? Owner Summit.
Yeah.
There was a lawyer that spoke there that was just for creatives. Yeah, I don't use him, so I don't know his name off.
Yeah. I don't
There's
remember.
several.
Yeah, Bill has.
Yeah, there's
So,
creative lawyers.
We started
Intellectual
in
property.
1999, and like a lot of people, I mean, we didn't know what we were doing and just created everything from scratch. But in 2001, we bought a book about this thick from SitePoint, and SitePoint is a reference
they were awesome in
thing out
2001.
there. And this $300 book, and I think it was $600, but it was 50% off, and you know, let's put money into it. And it had all the forms and all the checklists, and it had sample contracts, and it had all this stuff that we were trying to cobble and write ourselves. And at that moment, you know, now we had systems and processes and checklists, and it was great to go from, you know, blank pages to, you know, some sort of systems. And so there are resources out there where you can just, you know, sort of buy that and you know, boost what you're doing, you know, to the next level. And I think the other thing is, so there's been some questions, how do you get to the next level? And I think, you know, if you want to get to the next level, you got to be able to command a conference room with, you know, chief marketing officer, 2 department managers, and you want to, you know, get a $10,000 project with a commercial real estate firm that's going to be 4 different sites. Well, you got to be able to command that and answer the questions from all of these people. And if that's not you, it's not you, and you've got to find the right type of, you know, you've got to be able to do that. There are certain clients that, you know, are just beyond us. We've gotten, you know, RFPs before, and I'm like, wow, that is not us, and we just don't do it. And I would certainly like to do $50,000 projects, but it's just not me.
Right.
So you've got to sort of identify where your limitations are. I think you can go a little bit outside your limitations because our industry is constantly changing and will. But you got to know who you are and you know, live in that space, play in that space.
Cool. Chris?
There was one UX guy that was on the Web HC podcast. I forgot his last name. It's like Nick something. And I mean, he does like UX stuff, but his criteria was like, if your business isn't generating X in revenue, I'm probably not the guy for you. Do you guys have that same type of like? You may not say it, but are you selective? It's like, okay, typically an average company could be real estate, it could be someone selling flowers, could be event planning. If they aren't grossing or generating X amount of revenue, I typically probably can't, you know, they probably can't afford my services.
For me, it's marketing activities and momentum. So I know that I'm a good fit. It's funny, Brad Iroff, you know, said to me, you only want to work with the companies who are already successful, right? Because I said, well, they have to be, for me to do their SEO and for them to be able to see results, they need to be blogging, doing social media, getting in front of their customers. For my specific services is to help them take off. So if a brand new business person comes to me, they're not willing to blog, they maybe do sporadic SEO, they won't get out of their house, I'm not a fit for them. So I don't know, so I'm not a fit. So I definitely know like when I can help out those qualifiers, and that has been reflected in my marketing activities and what I say and who comes to me. And on my website, the copy says that as well. That came after I had a lot of conversations, but I know who I can help, and they identify that, and I identify that. And then the other people, I give resources to help them, but I do have to know that for my services to be of value. What that qualifier is, it's not a money thing, it's a marketing activity level.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of, ours is similar to Jenny's, where we want someone that has a marketing person on staff that can't build a site, but at least someone we can reach and talk to. versus-
Norcross.
Yeah, in the Norcross office park.
We're in the high rise downtown, and if we're working on the house, we're in the office park in Norcross, we're gonna get.
There you go.
But now let me ask you a question on that. So about the blogging, because you said, you know, they have to be blogging. But so would you consider a company that wasn't blogging presently, and I'm just asking this, but I have nobody like that, but isn't blogging presently but wants to blog?
Yes.
Then you would consider them and they're committed to doing it.
Or
right?
just to educate them. I have a client like that now, and they're a small team, they don't have the resources, but they're going through a redesign, and eventually, so then I educate them, and I show them why their competitors are doing better, and I show them specifically the blog posts. So even if they can't do it now, the education goes into it, they have to want to get there. We were just talking, like, I can't take a business, I can't get them better SEO if they're not willing to do what it takes.
Right,
So we know
So you
that.
help them get to the next level.
Yeah.
And then maybe
Exactly.
they go on and, yeah. Yeah, that's great.
All right, so speaking of next level and growth and stuff, let's go into there a little bit in terms of teams and office space and that kind of stuff. And we've gone from, Allie and I were 4 years just virtual, working out of our individual houses, and went to a very small office and had one person and slightly bigger. Next week we're going a smidge bigger again, just in our space, in like 5 people. And Aaron, I'd like to hear your growth there. And then you two both are just working out of home, your house and coffee shop, and seem content with that. You have part-time, but you don't have the space or anything though. Like, tell me about, where you are and where you think you want to go. I mean, I tend to think at least you two are very happy with what you have and don't want to have a big team. And Aaron, I think you probably want to feel like they're, talk to that a little bit.
Do I have
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. So I work out of, we all work out of our houses. I also homeschool, or my wife does. And we have 4 kids, and it's loud. And that's hard. So I'm also, I don't want to do a commute. But I think we're at the point where we're going to have an office, and it's probably by the end of the year. Sorry, team, if you're watching. No, and, I think a couple days out of the week is nice because you have that, elbow to elbow, working on projects. So as far as growth, what we're, I've heard some people say, well, we're happy with the size we are. I don't know if I know of a good size to be. I know right now is we need more people. It's just that the work keeps coming in, and we don't have the team to do it. So I mean, it's a good problem. But I mean, as far as I don't know, what was the question?
Well, Jenny, tell us.
Okay.
You got your virtual assistant, and
Yeah, so I started out and I was very hesitant to hire my virtual assistant for like $200 or $300 a month, but finally I did it. And then, again, my business coach and just, networking with peers, the next level. I know I'm not cut out to run an agency. That's not what I want in my business model. I still want to do part of my work, but I hired a VA to do certain things, and then I kind of grew from there. And then when I realized that I was a bottleneck with my clients, then I hired someone different, but to a part-time person who was client interfacing. And that was huge, and I really had to identify, well, what are the parts I want to keep, and what can I get out. And it was really hard for me to let someone else talk to my clients. Even if I was CC'd, I was not happy about that. I've been very grumpy about a lot of changes, but then I do it, and I'm really happy about it. But, so I have a person who works about 20 hours per week for me, and that's been huge for me to be able to take on more clients and get out. Because again, usually I've just been head down for so many years, working on client work. So it's a struggle. It's never easy, you don't want to do it. You don't want to have to spend money, but my husband always laughs because my phrase is, you got to spend money to make money. It's my new thing. So I've had to invest in people, and I started out slow, 5 hours, a couple hours a week with a VA agency, and then it grew.
What I was going to piggyback on that. What I've realized is that the more people, or when we hire, we grow. And the not having the team is bottlenecking, is the thing. So we're probably going to need a full-time designer very soon, so because it slows down the dev, if we're waiting on artwork, the dev can't finish the project. It's just this whole, catch-22, and so you just have to shell out the money and hire people. And yes, if you can get five, people that are happy 5 hours a week, that's great. That's really easy for a business owner to be like, okay, I can pay someone 5 hours, and then it ups eventually to 10. It's hard for us to find someone that is like a good developer that is just looking for 10 hours a week. Those are rare. So they're all hired full time. So.
And that's why when we have a little bit of dev overflow, we hire you for
Yeah.
2 hours a week. That essentially
Exactly.
fills that role instead of having to hire another developer. Then
Right.
Chris, any thoughts? You talk about you meet in Starbucks with clients and just,
Yeah, my situation's a little different, I guess. I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids at home, elementary school boys. And I want to be a mom. I don't want to work full time. And I'm fortunate that I don't have to. I have to work to supplement my husband's income, but I don't have to work full time. So my goal is to balance, the big word, right? You know, being a mom, which is my first priority, with doing something I love and earning some money. So, in that sense, I may be a little different than some folks because I'm not under all this pressure to earn some huge sum of money. So like everybody, my business ebbs and flows. I worked at Rome for a while. Has anybody ever worked at Rome? Do you know what it is? Rome's the best. If you can like swing $100 a month, like you don't want to work at Starbucks or in your living room, Rome is great. There's one at Galleria, there's one at Perimeter, there's one in Alpharetta. It's just a big co-working space.
There's one in Buckhead.
It's a great place, and man, you can get clients there. You know, I mean, you network and meet people. It's a great spot. So that's just a thought. And the other great thing they have is with your $100 a month, you get conference room space. So when you have your strategy meetings, you actually look like a pro because your clients have a place to meet you, and all the walls are white and paint. So you take your pens and you can like brainstorm, even if you're by yourself up on the walls. So I have no interest in hiring anybody. I'm happy with my little, just me.
and that's the benefit of being a golden unicorn. You don't need to you can do both sides and, keep it balanced on your own, where Aaron,
Yeah, I'm gonna put in a plug for Jenny though. If anybody ever feels like you need some advice on how to be like structured, and I'm always telling her, Jenny Munn is the most disciplined, intentional, purposeful person about her business of anyone I've ever known. She hires coaches, she plans, she knows who she is, she knows where she wants to be, she's very good at that. So I'm offering Jenny's free advice. If y'all need it. She's very good at that. Yeah.
very nice. Allie, do you have any thoughts on us? Because I know, like when we talked about getting an office, whatever it was, 3 or 4 years ago, I was sort of in favor of it, and Allie was sort of against it. So it's been interesting to kind of feel out, how that's gone. I think it's gone well. I think the benefit, you say you don't want to commute, which we argued that, but then the benefit there is clients, for the most part, come to us, and we can keep working all day.
Yes, I was similar to you, Chris, in that, I was young. I started Green Melon when I was 24.
Wow. What are you now, 28?
Yeah.
She's in her 30s.
I'm in my 30s.
She's in her 30.
I'm in my 30s.
That is so old.
So I was always I thought that I was starting my own freelance career, because I was a freelance designer, in order to stay at home, have a family, and have that mentality. My career kind of took over and put all those things on hold a bit. And so I was a little bit hesitant to push myself out the door and get an office, because that was not my plan. So, anytime you have a 50-50 business partner, you have to consider everyone's opinions and make one on this one.
Oh,
Yeah. So personally, it made me shift some priorities and things like that, but we were able to make some things work and get an office space, and it's great now. I still need a work from home day 1 or 2 times a week in order to actually focus on setting priorities, and working on projects. But I wouldn't change it. I really like where we've grown to. Future growth, we always talk about what we want to be, and we always throw around, are we going to be big or are we going to stay small? And I'm so risk averse that it feels really comfortable for me to stay small. So I think a 5 to 8 person agency, which is small, by the way, feels comfortable. And I don't see us getting much beyond that as long as we have the right people and the right talent. So it's really finding the right people when you do need to make that move to grow, or else you're going to handicap yourself because you're not growing as robustly as you can. So those are big decisions to make when you start bringing people on.
Yep.
Well, then you become responsible for them too.
Well, yes, that too. That's a lot of pressure there.
And I know a lot of agencies that hire a CEO because they're like Jenny. They want to stay in the trenches. They want to do the work. That's why they started this. It's like a bakery. A baker bakes. They don't manage a bakery. so do you want to stay in the trenches or do you want to manage a company? So a lot of people, like in your situation, Jenny, end up, when they grow, end up hiring their management, their C-level management, and they stay in the workflow rather than.
Sorry, Evan? I think this is singling out only you in the panel, but when you get past that legal threshold of 3 people, I think is how do you handle like all like paychecks and basically paychecks? I mean, that's a huge thing.
Do you do a website for a company that does
You find an amazing accountant.
Yes.
Doesn't really answer the question for you, but that's what we did. Our payroll and everything is done through a company called FinSync. They're
What's it
Atlanta
called
based.
there?
FinSync, FINSYNC.com. And they've been a client of ours for 4 years. But to be honest, if you're, I mean, I'm not really in the ins and outs of business. Like, I don't deal with the CPA. I don't deal with payroll. I have a business partner that has a business degree, marketing degree, actually, but really good with business. But we decided, goodness, it was probably just April when we actually went with payroll. We brought in our first full-time W-2, and then Adam and I both got on, the payroll, and now we're adding people. It's worth it. You're about the time you spend on stupid stuff like that. Getting paid. It's not our forte. So we get that. A service to do that, and then we, all of our taxes and everything, we just pay someone to do the ledger and do the taxes, every year.
So going along with that, what do you outsource and what do you keep in house? How do you make that decision? Like you said, CPA. You said so accountant work.
Accounting.
Legal. Paychecks.
And paychecks. That's it. Everything else.
Okay.
People.
We do our own paycheck, as it were. We have an awesome accountant. She actually was my accountant for 15 years. And then Allie needed an accountant, so I was like, yeah, talk to Libby, she's great. And then like, oh, Allie, gotta make it a business. Let's put that together. And so she does all that. And then every other Friday, she sends me a document that says, here's the pay stubs. And I go to State Bank and send money to there and send money there and hand them their pay stubs.
We're a little unique in that sense.
Yeah, we're small enough that we only have a couple to do, but it's it's working out well for now. So.
Our bank allows for that kind of transfer.
Interesting. Yeah, you have to.
So
we'll do a whole. I'm hoping at some point in the next few months to bring in a lawyer, maybe just to speak to all the legal kind of issues for an hour and a half, because there's so many different things with.
I might have somebody for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a few thoughts, but no one perfect, so that would be good. Because one of the things we look at is contractors versus employees, and which is easier and which is legal. It's getting it's getting trickier and trickier to be a contractor when really you're acting like an employee, and I don't want to get into that whole thing, but there's a lot to discuss there too. So almost out of time here, but yeah.
I just have one other quick question. How do you go from maybe Jenny, probably you or Nikki, like if you have your smaller clients, because that's what your business model has been, and there's ongoing work, and they trust that you're going to be there, the trust and the integrity thing, and you're taking care of their websites, and you are always there to take care of their needs. What do you do with that? I mean, what do you do with those smaller clients?
Yeah.
As you move up to different levels.
So you're not talking like maintenance, like what services do you offer them ongoing? You're talking about how do you leave smaller clients behind?
Or do you?
Oh, hell yeah, you do. No, you can't hang on to them. Like, you have to be able to say no, and they have to go bye-bye. Like, they just have to. So you do have to have other people who you can refer them to really clear out that space for the next people. So you do. You have to feel comfortable passing them along and having proactive conversations with them.
You gotta lose the 10 to 15% always, every year.
Yeah, prune. It's like it's the same way you grow a garden. You've got to keep everything pruned and clean.
That's a good analogy.
Any overgrowth you have, cut it.
And they're not, bad. It's just you have chosen to focus your efforts at this new place where these other people you can serve. You can make valuable contribution over here instead of splitting efforts. You're just meeting resources if you got one foot in both. So you just have to be ready to go here and to wish them luck and, give them names if they need it.
It depends too on your kind of business. So I think we're a little bit different than you, where you need, for somebody to be able, you need to have time with them. Whereas we will have clients say, great, thanks for the site. I really don't need much help. Can you just keep WordPress updated for me? So great. So we throw them in managed WP, set up a recurring credit card, keep things humming for, $50, $80 a month, whatever, and it's okay.
I'm more like that.
But you gotta have good processes, if you're not charging, if you're charging just, double digits a month here, not much, you gotta make sure it's not taking your time either. That's where we work hard on our process to make it smooth and quick and
Maybe that
auto
for
billing.
those type of clients, if there's enough of them. See, I think that's kind of, cause I was feeling bad at, maybe, or being a hoarder with these, but if you have enough of those, if you have enough of those, then maybe you can hire somebody part-time to oversee.
Right, and that's kind of where Susanna and our future role with Susanna's place sort of came from. We had, 100 clients that we had various levels of things with that just needed a lot, just make sure updates are good, make sure backups, see if someone went down, just kind of keeping an eye on things.
Why would you pay somebody to take care of your lowest paying clients?
No, I'm not saying lowest.
You gotta get rid of them.
These clients are, I view them as being valuable as like a bread and butter kind of thing if I were to go to the next level.
They're using up your time. If you're
Again, that's where you have to make the time work. You have to do the math and make it work. If you have 100 clients at $100 a month, that's 10 grand a month, and you can,
But somebody has to service.
Someone has to service them, but you have to pay someone.
Then you hire a low-hanging fruit ninja, which was what my job was.
For less than $10,000 a month.
What I had to do was say, okay, if I hired someone, I didn't have the money like ahead of time. It's like I had an extra $300 sitting around, but I said, okay, if they do this, that will free up 3 hours in my week, and I have to proactively and disciplined way dedicate those 3 hours to, business development and marketing and sales and hitting the pavement and getting my butt out there. So I just had to say, yeah, and it, takes 3 to 6 months to make that money back, but you have to have the discipline. Those 3 hours that it's going to free up, you're paying someone this, you're still making this, you need to dedicate to a very conscious activity.
Yeah, you use that to make one. And then, again, you just have to do the math on it. If we have someone that's paying us $50 a month for maintenance, and I say, well, it's taking us about 15 minutes a month to deal with, they're paying us $200 an hour. We're not having to really see them, so it works out. And if they become more of a pain, then we charge them more, or we cut them,
You have to do the numbers and see if it works out. And
we balance that all the time with, are we charging enough for this, to, figure it out and make changes. Cool, well, that's it. Hopefully we'll see a lot of you next week at Diana's and next month here at WordCamp and all the places.
Yay!